From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefanía Bravo. This is from the South. Talks between Mexico and the United States on migration and tariffs are continuing after a meeting on Wednesday failed to reach an agreement. Mexico's Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard and U.S. Vice President Mike Pence held discussions to try to ward off President Trump's proposed 5% tariffs on Mexican goods. Ebrard said the issue of tariffs was not discussed at Wednesday's meeting, but that the meeting focused on the measures that Mexico will take to address the challenges at the border. He, however, said his delegation was hopeful that further talks on Thursday will produce positive results.
Well, today we don't discuss the tariffs, as a tariffs. The dialogue was focused on migration flows and what Mexico are doing or is proposing to the United States. Our concern about Central America situation right now. And so it's difficult to evaluate what the position of the Vice President or the Secretary of State is about the tariffs, because wasn't, on this occasion, the main issue.
Lawyers for the former Brazilian President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva are bringing a second motion against the now Justice Minister Sergio Moro for illegal behavior. They say Moro, when he was the judge in charge of the case, illegally recorded conversations between Lula and his defense team. Our correspondent in Sao Paulo, Brian Mir, has the details.
The defense team for former Brazilian President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva filed a motion to dismiss all charges against the former president related to the Guarujá apartment, for which he has been imprisoned with a sentence of 12 years and held as a prisoner in solitary confinement since April 2018. Now, this is the second motion to dismiss filed by Lula's defense team against prosecutor Sergio Moro for illegal behavior. The first was due to the United States Department of Justice public admission that they were involved in informal communication with Sergio Moro and the Lava Jato prosecution team, which is a crime in Brazil. And this new motion to dismiss is based on the fact that Sergio Moro illegally wiretapped 14 hours of telephone conversations between Lula's defense team and the former president, and used these recordings to create an org chart to map out every possible move that they could make according to what the defense team was planning on doing. They filed a motion to dismiss, and only time will tell if all of these charges will be thrown out against the former president.
We thank Brian for that report. A preliminary investigation into the Odebrecht corruption case will be opened against former President of Colombia, Juan Manuel Santos. A committee from the lower house is investigating whether Santos accepted illegal campaign contributions from Odebrecht in 2014. The decision follows a journalist published interview last week with former Senator Fernando Elias Vidal, who is serving time in prison for his involvement in the scandal. Elias said he contacted a person who was a director of Santos's campaign, who, quote, perfectly knew the money came from Odebrecht to secure his re-election in 2014. And staying in Colombia, the Senate has agreed to promote an army general who has been accused of overseeing extrajudicial executions between 2004 and 2006. Our correspondent Juan Manuel Jimenez has the details.
Divisions among lawmakers have been exposed after the Senate endorsed the promotion of controversial Colombian Army Commander General Nicasio Martinez. The decision was made during Congress plenary session, with 64 votes in favor of the promotion and 1 against the move. This represented a triumph for the government, and especially for the members of the armed forces. However, the opposition walked out of the Congress in protest against the vote. The vote was taken after an intense debate about the controversial general, who is said to have led a brigade accused of killing civilians. He has also been accused of alleged irregularities by way of false instructions he gave to the military. During the plenary session, Senator Antonio Sanguina had asked a majority of the government opposition voted no. After Wednesday's plenary session, Martinez announced that he will clear up all the allegations against him, which are alleged to have been taking place between 2004 and 2006. As you may recall, the Army commander has previously been investigated by the State Prosecutor's Office for corruption. The Attorney General has also opened a probe into Martinez concerning recent international media reports linking Martinez to a number of extrajudicial executions in Colombia. In the past, the Army General has also been accused of having paramilitary links and has even been named in a drug trafficking probe. Certainly, the country host that General Nicasio Martinez answers this avalanche of allegations against him.
We thank Jose Manuel Jimenez for that report. Moving on, the president of El Salvador has ordered the dismissal of 21 government officials. This was one of his first acts after only 6 days in office. The dismissed officials were mostly relatives of former President Sanchez Serén, including 4 children and several grandchildren, as well as relatives of senior FMLN leaders. President Nayib Bukele ordered that many of them not be replaced, but that their salaries go towards institutional savings instead. Meanwhile, Bukele lamented that the former president's family took more than $6 million in salaries alone during his 5 years in office. He said forensic audits weren't necessary since the corruption and nepotism was too obvious. When he won the presidential election in February, Bukele swore to tackle corruption, saying there was enough money for El Salvadorians once nobody was stealing. Local government representatives from around Latin America are meeting in Caracas, Venezuela to discuss ways of encouraging participatory democracy. The session this Thursday is focused on ways of including organized communities in the decision-making process of local governments. Venezuela's foreign minister said it was particularly important that this debate was taking place in his country at this time.
We have a big challenge ahead of us, and it is appropriate that we are here in Caracas, in Venezuela, to face that challenge at a time when we are subjected to the most savage attack by those who want to take power away from the people, by those who want to ensure that the elites and the bourgeoisie keep political and economic power to themselves and deny power to the people.
From Caracas, our correspondent Paula Dragnik has more.
It is certainly very fitting that right here in the Hall of Social Heroes in the Foreign Ministry in Caracas, that more than 100 local authorities from Latin America are meeting in their first meeting on local government and participatory democracy to share and exchange experiences. We heard the Foreign Minister Jorge Ariaza welcome them, and he said they are social heroes today because they confront the huge challenge of handing power back to the people. They will be meeting here in Caracas until Sunday, in the country that is under the most severe siege, precisely because throughout the Bolivarian Revolution, it has been trying to hand power back to the people.
We thank Paula for that report. In the face of the U.S. economic blockade, thousands of workers in Venezuela are taking part in a new initiative to boost production. One of these so-called productive workers' armies has been deployed in the Ministry of Tourism.
These men and women are part of the Productive Workers' Army. They say they're a non-conventional battalion fighting a non-conventional war. They were formed to restore Venezuela's productive capacity. This is the first battle in Caracas and the 14th in the country.
We have a very valuable people who are committed to this process and who are looking for a way to express that. And what a good way this is. This battle for the definitive independence of Venezuela.
After a thorough diagnosis, these workers are putting the machinery of the Ministry of Tourism back to work. There were electricity generators, refrigeration systems, cars and elevators that hadn't been working for 2 years. The work was done by volunteers.
There were elevators that has been damaged for 2 years and people were having a hard time. Now we can say that it is working at 100% for all the people who work here, so we can live with the satisfaction of a job well done.
More than 2,200 workers from different areas, ages and backgrounds are part of these productive armies in Venezuela, seen as a step towards socialism.
We are a social movement. We are a group of workers that give our labor and put the productive machinery back to work. As workers, we have gotten used to winning this war.
In 3 years, these armies have recovered at least 14 companies in the food, metal, gas and hydrocarbons industries. Their major achievement has been to overcome the economic and financial blockade that the government is suffering, restoring these companies with minimum waste and strengthening the working class with collective, permanent, comprehensive training.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
Who's moving the chessmen? What interests motivate the actors behind the event?
Se despliega el tablero.
Uncritical Moves investigates every event from Monday to Friday. Only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Guyana's Prime Minister has instructed the board chairman of the government-owned newspaper to reinstate the general manager that was fired in April. Shara Duncan was dismissed in a majority decision after an audit revealed several improper financial transactions. The Prime Minister advised the board to rescind its decision in a letter. In response, the board chairman and at least 2 other members say they intend to resign. Former Prime Minister and current opposition leader of Trinidad and Tobago, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, has been cleared of any wrongdoing in a marijuana probe. This was revealed by Police Commissioner Gary Griffith, who confirmed that the plant-like substance found in Persad's yard in 2013 was in fact marijuana. However, he said that because the weed was found outside of the then Prime Minister's house, with over 70 people having access to her yard, she could not be held responsible.
Owner of the property, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, the opposition leader, she is in no way culpable. She is not in any way accused of any wrongdoing, and she is clear of any matter pertaining to this investigation. The investigation, however, is still ongoing, as there are other matters that still have to be dealt with pertaining to that incident. But as it pertains to the opposition leader, she is in no way responsible for what was found in her premises, in her yard, at that time, which was marijuana.
There's a move in Jamaica to decriminalize Obeah, a stigmatized religious practice developed among enslaved West Africans. As a first step, lawmakers have blocked a proposed increase in fines from $100 to $1 million for persons practicing Obeah. For more than a century, the practice has been illegal under Jamaican law, yet Obeah men and Obeah women are still widely sought after by people from all strata of the society. Historically, the colonial construction of Obeah and also voodoo as negative by white plantocracy has seen the criminalization and policing of many African religious rights.
I have asked the Law Reform Department for us to have another cabinet submission. I would like to bring for us to debate here in this House the repeal of the Obeah law. It will be put in a broader concept in terms of scamming and other things. But there's no reason, Mr. Speaker, why the Obeah Act should still remain on the statute book, and we hope to remove it in due course.
Moving on, Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez has met with his Angolan counterpart Manuel Augusto to strengthen cooperation ties between both countries. This is Augusto's first official visit and forms part of conversations geared towards bilateral cooperation in education, health, construction, science, and technology. Augusto announced that the president of his country will visit Cuba at the end of June. He also thanked Cuba for standing in solidarity with Angola relatives to the illegal blockades that intend to limit its developmental capacity. Chilean teachers and students who have been on strike since Monday have held a march in the capital. They're continuing protests against the president's efforts to privatize education while also rejecting proposed changes to the school curriculum. Demonstrations have taken place with more than an 80% participation from the nation's educators. Teachers vowed to keep up protest action until the education ministry sits at the negotiation table with concrete answers.
This government right now is not worried about the challenges facing the education sector. They're not worried about the state of public education, and the measures they're taking fail to address what is happening in the nation's schools. On the contrary, the government's current policies are only bringing repression and discrimination, and this is the government's doing.
Argentina President Mauricio Macri welcomed his Brazilian counterpart Jair Bolsonaro in an official state visit to the country. The visit comes in the middle of protests against Bolsonaro's visit to the South American country. Various social and political movements have taken to the streets of Buenos Aires to reject his visit, saying Bolsonaro promotes hate. With slogans like "Your hate is not welcome in Argentina" and "Argentina rejects Bolsonaro," protesters took to the capital's Plaza de Mayo, very close to Casa Rosada, where Macri and Bolsonaro were meeting. This is Bolsonaro's first official visit to Argentina since Mauricio Macri took office in January 2019. Known for its spectacular costumes, stunning natural settings, music, and a packed calendar of activities, St. Lucia is ready to host 3 months of summer festivities for Carnival. The climax of the annual Carnival features 2 days of street parades. Our correspondent in Castries, Alsa Kentnish, has the details.
St. Lucia's biggest cultural festival, Carnival, is officially underway, and the stage is set for village carnivals, beauty pageants, calypso and soca monarch competitions, and costume band parties. The events are scheduled to take place at locations across the country, with the national activities and a 2-day street parade on July 15th and 16th set for the capital, Castries. St. Lucia's Carnival has its roots in both African and West Indian culture and is widely regarded as one of the most beautiful festivals, as the annual street parade is set against the backdrop of the Castries waterfront. This year's festivities have been officially unveiled, giving masqueraders and visitors a taste of what's to come for Carnival 2019. Reigning Calypso King T.C. Brown took to the stage at the opening concert with his popular tune, which calls on society to appreciate the role of Rastafarians in the Afro-Caribbean art form of Calypso.
For writing, singing, organizing, we should be recognizing Rasta in Lucian Kaiso. Don't wait before it's too late. Demonstrate you appreciate Rasta in Lucian Kaiso.
St. Lucia's Carnival is known for its spectacular colors and stunning costume bands. For 2019, the Carnival bands are displaying the country's rich arts and culture heritage.
The strong woman of Persia.
The official unveiling of Carnival 2019 also featured the beauties taking part in the various Carnival Queen pageants, local entertainers, and young talent. Carnival officials are promoting the summer festival in other Caribbean countries and say that the official opening was a sample of what's in store for Carnival enthusiasts, locals and visitors over the next few weeks. Alison Kentish, Telesur, St. Lucia.
Such a great party. Let's take a short break now.
Infested by inequalities, abuse of power, and injustice, the American journalist Abby Martin covers the struggle for fundamental rights worldwide, deepening into the search of files which uncover the empire's strategies through our screen and web platform in English. The Empire Files with Abby Martin. Tuesday, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. The Russian President Vladimir Putin and China's Xi Jinping are attending an international economic forum in St. Petersburg. The annual business meeting takes place on day 2 of the Chinese leader's 3-day state visit to Russia. After the meeting, Putin and Xi are expected to hold further talks during an unofficial dinner. On Wednesday, the two leaders signed a joint statement on the development of bilateral relations and partnership. Both sides also demonstrated what they called a great friendship with a little panda diplomacy when Xi presented 2 pandas to Moscow's zoo. Meanwhile, during one of the sessions at the Economic Forum, Huawei announced plans to expand its cooperation with Russia following its U.S. blacklisting. Rescue work continues in Uganda as people struggle in the aftermath of landslides. This, although authorities say most of the missing have been accounted for. About 100 families have been affected by the tragedy, and Red Cross put the number of missing at about 50. Landslides hit Bududa district on Tuesday after heavy rains caused the Sum River to burst, leaving at least 6 people dead.
Yeah, we feel upset, we feel so bad. We feel like we are not comfortable with the place, and there is too much that happens in this place, and it makes our life hard. The government has tried actually to resettle people from this place to other places, but because of the high population, because of the situations that we pass through, because we are born here, and moving from this place to another place becomes hard.
The African Union has suspended Sudan's membership until a civilian-led authority is established. Patrick Kapua, chairperson of the AU, said the council will impose punitive measures on individuals and entities that are obstructing the establishment of a civilian government. Following international condemnation, Sudan's ruling military council offered unconditional talks with protest leaders, but opposition groups rejected the call for talks and said the military could not be trusted.
Welcome to this occasion.
This as the death toll from repressive measures against protesters climbed to 101 after 40 bodies were pulled from the Nile River. The military council also violently dispersed demonstrators on Monday and declared that agreements made with the opposition were void. Protesters say they will continue to strike as they remain unrelenting in their demand for a civilian leadership. And the streets of Sudan's capital, Khartoum, have remained quiet and empty after a crackdown on protesters by security forces on Monday. A few demonstrators have been sitting on a makeshift barricade erected across the street aimed at blocking the security forces. Apart from that, the area was desolate with relatively little traffic passing. Insecurity is hampering efforts to stop the spread of the Ebola virus in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The World Health Organization on Thursday called on the government to do more to guarantee the safety of health workers in the region who are striving to combat the outbreak, which is said to be the second worst on record. According to a report released by WHO on Thursday, more than 2,000 cases and about 1,000 deaths have been recorded since the epidemic began in August of last year. The report added that about 90 cases are being recorded each week since May.
We are definitely missing cases, because when you have community deaths like that and probable cases, then you are definitely missing transmission. And the $1 billion question is, how big is that number? We believe at this point, and let me be very cautious here. We believe that we're probably detecting in excess of 75% of cases. We may be missing up to a quarter of cases. Now there's a new Prime Minister, there's a new cabinet, there's a multi-sectoral committee for Ebola control. We need that to function effectively. We need the government to reach out to opposition. We need an all-party approach. We need a single voice of leaders in Congo about this outbreak, about the importance of containing Ebola. So we need political leadership at all levels and political engagement at all levels, because we believe that will continue to decrease the threat of security incidents and increase the levels of community acceptance.
And now we go to sports. Australia beat West Indies by 15 runs in a controversial and dramatic World Cup match at Trent Bridge. The match saw Australia's Mitchell Starc take 5 wickets and pulling some spectacular catches. And early in the innings, the umpire gave West Indies opener Chris Gayle out twice, but Gayle challenged right away and the umpire had to change the decision. Gayle was forced to walk in 5th over, giving out LBW off Australia's Mitchell Starc. Gayle still managed to tick off another milestone in his career though. In today's match, he became the 3rd West Indian in history to complete 1,000 runs in Cricket World Cup. Right now, he's at 1,015 runs, 2 more than the legendary Viv Richards. And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.
Enjoy the best content in spaces where you will discover new perspectives, innovation, well-being,